Alright then, welcome back to the channel. Are you good? Are you having a good weekend? Have you had a good day? All that sort of good stuff. Let me know in the comments. We'll get involved in the questions and stuff like that as well. If you've got any burning questions, anything you want to tell me about, just get it in there. We'll have a bit of a chat. Because there's not a lot going on, really. We're going to talk about the fixture list, but outside of that, we're going to burn that up in about 4 minutes flat. So anything that you want to take it off, any opinions that you've got, hit me with them. So yeah, United have got a very, very important run, I think it's safe to say. Very, very important. I think with the way the first 3 games has gone, I think Erik Ten Hag, I don't think he's not under pressure. I think he is under pressure. And I think these next 5 games will probably be very, very decisive for him. Now, I think if he wins all 5 games comfortably, I don't think that means he's out of the woods and like nothing needs to change. But I think if these 5 games do not go to plan, I think he's in problems. I think if he wins all 5 of them, I don't even know if all 5 should be expected to be won. I think you would expect him to win the majority of these. You might accept a draw at Spurs maybe, but you shouldn't. You should go into this thinking we can win all of those games. Obviously, circumstances don't work like that, and no team wins every game they're meant to. But I think you've got to go into this thinking he really needs to pick up at least 4 wins here. Like even Southampton alone, if he doesn't beat Southampton, it's going to get horrible, isn't it? You know, a team that's struggling, even though they're... Wait till you see how much possession Southampton are having. Surprising, but very surprising. But he's got to win these games. So we've got Southampton on Saturday, followed very quickly by Barnsley on a Tuesday in the League Cup. Bit of an opportunity there to rotate. You would expect maybe the likes of Collier and Maguire, possibly Lindelof if he's fit. I'm not sure on his status. You'd expect those sorts of players to start featuring in that. Maybe even some of the players that are coming back from injury, like a Højlund, gets 20 minutes in there if he's ready for that. Then the following Saturday, we've got Crystal Palace away. Another winnable game, but like a tricky place to go. That's the truth. It is a tricky place to go. Then we've got a Wednesday. We got Thursday night cup on a Wednesday against 20 at home. And then the following Sunday, United against Spurs, our 4 kickoff. So we got a win. Yeah, we got, like John in the comments there says, got a feeling he needs to win 4 out of 5. Another John says, I worry for him. Andrew says, we should have that mentality in every game, no matter what level you play football. You should have that mentality, but also reflectively, you can say, you know, you'd be okay. One of those, isn't it? When are we back around Haydock and Newton way with Paddock? We have got more United, which I think is that sort of area on the 28th. I think 2 o'clock kickoff. Santa Notch says 20 on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, yeah. Do I think Ugarte starts over Casemiro as our main DM from now on? Maybe. We will. Well, we'll very quickly soon see, won't we? Very, very quickly soon see. Ipyana says, loved your video on Bruno. Why do I think United players function outside of the club? One, I think international football is a lot easier than club football. Because who actually goes... Can you name a Premier League player that goes with their international team and doesn't play well? I don't think it happens. And obviously United aren't functional at the moment, are they? And that's not been the case for, say, Bruno forever, because Bruno, up until you know, very recently, has been pretty solid, hasn't he? IR says Phil Foden. Pretty valid. Matthew says, hey Steve, when Højlund returns, we will see the best version of this United team. His pace and threat in behind will force teams to drop off, allowing space in between the lines for Bruno, Mainu and Ahmad. Maybe, but I also think that what you've got to see is you've got to see different rotations. Like that video I did with Bruno wasn't just because I was like, let's just make a video. It is something that I think needs to happen. Bruno's frequently too high, and I actually think he's got some really good attributes to play a lot deeper. That tenacity. What a box-to-box midfielder you can be with that level of tenacity. You know, and he does have a good range of passing, and he does have an engine on him. Like, you make a great box-to-box midfielder with obviously a big output in the final third. And when he's coming into the final third later rather than being up there, I think you get a different thing out of him. Shay says, how's Paddock doing in the league this season? We got absolutely robbed last week. Just horrendous. If you've seen the game, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I think we played well enough to get the 3 points, but we didn't. And similar the week before. So we've had a bit of a skid the last couple of weeks. We've started off nice. We're playing some good football. I've got like 15, 16 players unavailable, which, you know, I've not had a striker since the first or second game of the season. That's really hurt us. Had to play midfielders up there, to play wingers in there. But we're getting back lads from similar to United in a way, except that we're actually playing well and winning. We'll get there. We will get there. Scott says, never going to be applauded for these games, but if we draw against Southampton and Palace with equal shots, I reckon he's gone. But I don't want 3 to 5 points in the first... I don't want it, but 3 to 5 points in the first Prem games. Yep, that's a big one. Ipiana says, are we getting any IRL content anytime soon? There's a video scheduled for the 11th to go out. And then there's 2 videos that are shot. They're just in the middle of being edited. They'll be ready to go this week and next week. And I am introducing a podcast with Janine on there, where we will be discussing all things going on. So the IRL channel is obviously, it's an expensive channel to run in terms of like, I can just sit here and go live on the back of some news. I get a graphic up and I can sit here and I can chat to you guys about what's going on because there's a massive interest in what's going on about Manchester United, and I have opinions and you guys have opinions and all that. So it's very easy to just make Manchester United content. It's a very cheap video. Like, I have a camera, I have a graphic, and we are live, and that's it. Whereas the IRL ones, they require, I mean, the 5 hikes in the Peak District one, it required 5 visits to the Peak District, which take, you know, at least half a day, plus some shots inside the office and a voiceover. Like, the amount of time it takes to make an IRL video, which is going to do a 10th of the views that a Manchester United video does. But it is my little escape that I like, and I enjoy the content. So I'm going to continue doing it, and we're going to continue to add to it. But one of the things that we want to do is bring in a bit of a podcast. So we get loads and loads of questions about stuff about the when's this content happening? What have we been up to? And there's lots of stuff we want to be able to share with you. But you know, some of the things that we do, they're not quite exciting enough to just be a standalone video. You know, we did Penny Fan 2 weeks ago together. It's not going to be a video. Tomorrow or Wednesday, we're doing 10 or 12 mile. It won't make a video. We're just doing that because, you know, that's what me and Janine do. So there's loads of things that we're doing, courses that we've done that you'll never see the content of because they're not a video, but they'd be nice sort of segment on a podcast. You know, and we've started having companies that have asked us to do reviews on some of their products. Well, they're not going to get a full video out of it, but we might review it in the middle of a podcast. And we've also had some pretty cool questions in that as well. So one question that we had that I asked this weekend was, or one question somebody asked was, how do we do all of the sort of trips that we do whilst having kids and a dog? And you'll get the answer to it on there. The short answer is it's fucking really difficult. It requires a lot of favours from grandparents. But, you know, that's the sort of things that we want to talk about and discuss. So, yeah. Theo says, am I ashamed Manchester is a cotton place back in the day? No. Because Manchester was more significantly involved in ending the slave trade. Not all cotton came from slaving, and Manchester was a place that manufactured cotton. It wasn't a place that sort of existed on the back of the slave labor. It's a very different kind of thing. And not everything in a certain industry, obviously there's extremely egregious and mind-boggling problems with the cotton industry around the time of the Industrial Revolution. But I think Manchester, even as a city, predates that trade. So, yeah. Do you use guitars at paddock training? What? I asked, has been avoiding these lives because the chat's been a nightmare lately, and for me, YouTube's meant to be a break from awful Twitter takes. Today's one's good, though. It does seem it, doesn't it? Are all the kids back at school now? Is that what's happened? Rock Holmes Play says, not to hate on him, but Do I seriously not see a problem with Onana? I don't think he's perfect, no, but I think there's far less problems in Onana than other areas of the pitch. Ryan says, hey, Steve, what's the deal with the seemingly reduced role on Rio stuff? Mr. Steve and Joel banter. I don't know. They're just going in a different direction from Vibe with 5. I'm still going to be on there. So like I've said about 5 times, it's pretty fucking boring talking about it and that. Akash says, am I concerned about how the new stadium is getting financed? At the moment, no. And not all debt is bad debt. The problem with what the Glazers did to Manchester United is it was bad debt. They put the mortgage of buying the club onto the club to pay off the mortgage. Like, all that changed. Manchester United operating one day, mega profitable, making hundreds of millions of pounds of profit every single season. The next day, we now have to furnish this £700 million debt with interest payments that over the last 19 years have accrued to somewhere in the region of 1.5 billion. That could have paid for our stadium. Nothing changed. Now, Spurs are in debt because of their stadium, but they've got the stadium and they will be paying it off because they've now got an asset which is worth something which they've paid to develop. United went into debt for no good reason. Like, there wasn't an asset that we was like, listen, we're going to get this out. Like, look, Paddock want to buy a stadium eventually. We might have to borrow for it, but we will end up having an asset on the other side of this. So it's not the same. Not all debt is equal. And what the Glazers did to United has become illegal. Hence showing how bad of a fucking situation that one was. Chris says, do I know if United have a new goalkeeper coach? And if not, do I believe replacing the current one could help our goalkeepers improve? I don't know enough about goalkeeping to have an opinion on that, to be honest with you. How does one convince a club to take Anthony? I don't know, mate. I'm a YouTuber, not a fucking miracle worker. Martin says, the way the Glazers bought United is enraging. Yes. Any idea what's the deal with the Obi Martin deal not being announced yet? I believe it's down to we've had to take them to arbitration over the compensation level, I believe was the last thing that I saw about that. Dave says, I think Shaw comes back, that we'll get the best out of Rashford, kind of like the link between Gary and Bex. I understand what you're saying, yeah, but I'm not even sure he deserves to be given the opportunity just yet. You know, the guy put England first ahead of getting ready for Manchester United at the start of the season. And Dalot's playing well and Mazraoui's playing well, so why would you stop them? Dalot and Mazraoui deserve to start. None of them deserve stopping. So he needs to come in and take someone's spot. He's not going to be given, shouldn't be given an opportunity. I don't know if he will be or not. IR says Spurs got into $1 billion debt to the best stadium in the country. We got into $1 billion debt to get the worst owners in the world. And that's the difference. Ipiana says Howson versus soon. Usually record it on a Tuesday. Bok says, I know a lot of fans will want to keep Old Trafford, but I believe converting Old Trafford to a 20k stadium for the women and youth using existing land for a new stadium would work. Yeah, I kind of like that idea. I do. Like, because what you don't want is like the old Stretford End or the old, you know, the old centre circle or the old tunnel to now be like the fucking toilets in Nando's or something, do you? You don't need that. That's shit, that. Jay and Joe's adopted son Benjamin says, Steve, Carrick looked absolutely unreal. We need him. Yeah, I saw. I didn't watch the game, but I saw some of the highlights, and of course he looked good because he was good. And it was never like an athleticism thing with Carrick. It was all about touch and positioning, which was never going to go. Bruno for the next United manager, based on what? Red UK says, regards to Manchester and the cotton industry, you need to look at why we have a statue of President Lincoln. I don't even know why we've got a statue of President Lincoln. We've also got one of Karl Marx. I mean, there's some random statues in Manchester. Oh, in for a penny. Let's have a Google. Let's see what it says. Manchester has a statue of Abraham Lincoln as a symbol of solidarity and gratitude between the city and the United States during the American Civil War. During the 1860s, despite the economic hardship caused by a cotton shortage, Manchester's working class supported Lincoln's fight to abolish slavery. The Lancashire cotton famine, which hit the city hard, was due to the Union's blockade of Confederate ports that cut off cotton supplies from the South in the US, affecting the textile industry. Despite this, the workers of Manchester sent a letter of support to Lincoln in '62, praising his efforts to end slavery. Lincoln replied with a letter expressing gratitude for their stance on human rights despite the economic toll they faced. The statue, installed in 1919, commemorates the historical moment of solidarity and shared values between Manchester and Lincoln's America. So there you go. Abner says, I guess Mark spent a lot of time with Manchester workers to understand the problems. Connor says, Old Trafford should be converted into a central hub for the new stadium with restaurants, shops, foods and stands, where the pitch is currently also creating a place where people can watch the match. I think using it for the women and kids is the best idea. Mr. Callum podcast says, thoughts on Dortmund's keeper if Onana is gone? Onana's not going, so I've got no opinion on him. Naeem says, did I see United plans to develop Trafford Wharfside area to potentially a new stadium? The stadium is going to be on the car park and the land to the side of Old Trafford, to the southwest of Old Trafford. Jubilani says, stick to your title. How about go fuck yourself? How's that sound? The Trafford Wharfside stuff, there's not enough room to put a stadium on there, but there is enough to sort of redo the businesses that are in that area. So yeah. Bilal says, I just want to see goals. Is that too much to ask for? At the moment, yeah. I think that's far too much to ask for. It's going to be one of those, isn't it? Ricky says, personally, I do not feel responsible for my parents' decisions, never mind late ancestors. I avoid victim ideology. Do I agree with this? I think you have to be aware of what people have done. I don't think you necessarily need to take credit or blame for things that other people have done, but you have to be aware of those things that have happened. Martin says, the new stadium has to be named Old Trafford, in my opinion, just like the Snapdragon Stadium is terrible for the long term. I'm from Ireland. I'd call the National Stadium the Aviva, not Lansdowne Road. Yeah, I'd rather it not be a sponsored name for it, but if it's Ineos Old Trafford or Old Trafford Ineos or something like that, it's probably not as egregious. It'll still be called Old Trafford, but I understand what you mean. Yeah, calling any sort of new stadium like the Twix Arena or some shit like that's not fun, is it? Dada Caesar with a super chat says, Henry was not prolific at Monaco or Juve. Yes, different players, but do I feel Xerxes could get 25 goals with the help from an on-form Rashford if changed his game? The Henry comparison is pretty irrelevant, I think. 25 goals across all competitions, maybe, but I mean, he's getting chances at the moment. He's got to be a lot more clinical with those chances, I think. Shobit says, how does stadium development happen in England? Is it like NFL where teams often look to buy him from the city they play in, or completely driven by private enterprise? Neither. It's completely driven by the club and loans. I can't wrap my head around how like some of America's cities are fucking skint. Like, I don't know that much about the various American cities, but I know that schools and school teachers are fucking hurting. I know that police and fire departments are underfunded, yet they'll spend $1 billion on having a private company's facilities built for them. It's fucking insane to me. Insane to me. Private companies can get involved, I guess, over here in terms of sponsoring it. But yeah, by the most part, it's down to the club. Ben says, loved your work on veteran service dogs, Steve. Keep up the good work. I got to tell you that, you know, I've got a 15-year-old dog at the moment. Being real, he ain't got that long left, has he? I would love a Belgian Mal, like a trained Belgian Mal, to replace him if the worst happens with Diesel. Kevin says, genuine question, do I think the size of the Old Trafford pitch makes it more difficult to do a high press well, or does it make it easier for teams to play around us, and would I keep it the same? I think pressing is one aspect of the game, and I like big pitches. Martin Mongan says, best former United player autobiography. I'm reading Schmeichel at the moment and it's great. Paul McGrath, it's not even close. Brian says, Mark has been working with RH. Watch him go and bang 25 goals in this season. Yeah, I saw that he's been working out with RH. I'm not even sure it's his finishing. You know, and people are going to comment on that, but that's fine. It's more about his willingness to take on his runner, take on his defender. That's what I think Marcus is lacking at the moment. In previous times, Marcus would have took the ball in certain areas and looked to advance the ball by beating someone. That seems to have gone from his game at the moment. Apner says, American public infrastructure for regular people is messed up. Ricky says, would the new stadium still have the Stretford End and Sir Alex stand? I'm not making the decisions, brother. Who knows? My chat appears to have stopped. Let me just log on, see if I can get it on YouTube and see if I can get it over here. Because it does seem to have cut out. Oh, there it's back. Analyses says R10 equals Rude. Point being he was not a goal scorer. Well, yeah, see, Rude wasn't a goal. Rude was a central midfielder, but when he did start playing up front, he just started scoring goals, didn't he? Edgar says, is the new show with Ash starting this week or when United are back playing? We're going to do a show called Tactical Show, but no, we've got to mess with the software first. So we've got some software that someone's developed. It's going to take us a few weeks to figure it out, and then we'll like, I'm not thinking about it for a few more weeks, but we should have Ed's gone back probably this week, I think. CTB says, genuine question, not hating. What's the difference between Rashford and Martial? Both amazing on their day, both inconsistent. Really? The injuries. Massively. The injuries. Vishnu says, reading George Best's book, but I haven't read anyone else's. It's a pretty good one. Triple OC says, I think Rashford's lost some of his pace. He might have. I'm not seeing him running with the ball at all at the moment, so that could be one, isn't it? Tactical Statistician says, Marcus lacks technique. His body doesn't do what his mind thinks it can do. I don't think he lacks technique. I think he's got, I mean, oh my, go look at some of the highlights of him when he's on form. You can't tell me that that's an individual that lacks technique. That's just ridiculous. Did I see Ronaldo rate Giggs over Paul? No, but I don't, you know, that's just an opinion. It's not a crazy opinion, is it? Alex says, my friend's dog is 100 in human years. They give him stem cell treatment, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to walk. Fucking hell. Apner says, it's inevitable. Just happy for Diesel. He has a good place in his last phase of life. I mean, he still thinks he's a puppy. Do you know what he is? He acts and sort of projects like a puppy, but a puppy that doesn't seek human approval. If he's deciding to do something, he's just doing it. Like, he's like got sort of grumpy old man sort of patience, but puppy sort of enthusiasm for stuff. It's funny. Son of Zeus says, Rashford 100% does not have a proper shooting technique. Depends what you look at. The way he hits it like a knuckleball style, doesn't he? It's still a technique. People shoot differently. Can't say he has no technique. Bryce has lost so much confidence for whatever reason. Massively important for the way he plays. I think so. Linville says, my problem with Rashford is movement and positioning. Movement? I can't agree that his movement's bad. His movement, he's constantly on the move, and a lot of the time the ball just doesn't come to him. His movement's good. Now, I could argue his movement inside the box has got work to do, but his movement along the line, looking for a ball either through or over, it's fucking excellent. Room says, Steve, Wayne still got it, Carrick too. Not surprised. Box says, do I reckon United could invest in youth from emerging countries outside of Europe, i.e. Asia and Australia, similar to Bayern, avoids the United tax in England? I don't know on the legalities of that, and I don't know how much Brexit fucked that, to be honest. Edgar says, Steve, I think you've talked about this before, but do I feel pushing Bruno further back? Yep, did a whole video on it. Ben Kelly says, look at Rashford's free kick against Chelsea, screams technique. Dennis says, what are your minimum requirements for a new stadium? I know the business case for a new final stadium everyone with a prognosis it wouldn't generate 25 mil a year was the reason it failed. For United, the only one I've got is it's got to be 100k. It's got to be 100k. I would like safe standing behind both goals. And that's really it. Like, I'm sure everything else will be dealt with. Not really staying up at night thinking about it, to be honest with you. John says the hate Rashford gets is crazy. In the stadium, you can see the runs he makes. You can. John Dre says Rashford just doesn't take on defenders like he always did. When he gets that back, we will be cruising again. Yeah, and Sebastian sort of backs that up and says Rashford just has to overcome that drastic loss of confidence and he will be banging goals again. In my assessment, does Bruno possess high quality passing? Yes. CTB says, are we counter-attacking less this and last season? Could be the reason for Rashford's drop in form. The game plan suits him less. The phrase counter-attacking is a weird one to me because there's dozens of transitions in games. Dozens. And that's a counter-attack. Like, are we counter-attacking? I'm not sure if we are counter-attacking less than previous seasons. We might be counter-attacking higher or lower on the pitch, but I couldn't say for sure that we're definitely counter-attacking less or more. I don't know about that. Jack says, Miss Head's Gone was the funniest weekly podcast about... Should be back this week. Martin says, mental how different the chat is during school hours. Isn't it just? Very telling that last week, wasn't it? Fuck me, it was hard work. Knight says, people say counter-attacking as if it's a bad thing because apparently possession football is the only football that's praised. We've started work today on a video. We're going to have to go and look at all... I think there's been 30 Premier League matches so far, right? I think that's the case. We're going to look at every single goal that's been scored in the Premier League this season. We're going to look at how many of those goals came from a team making a mistake when playing out, like United did against Liverpool. Because I think it's high. Now, obviously, a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, whenever it was, we did a look at... I didn't really look into it, but I sort of mentioned, I think there's going to be a change in football. Someone's going to do the maths. Well, I'm doing the maths. I'm going to find out. And I want to see what is... what's really going on in terms of mistakes and playing out. And then if you can sort of look at how many times a possession loss from going long to the halfway line results in a shot on your own goal. Like, because I think it's drastic. I think it's going to be a big one. Linville says, Roy Keane's rant about MK Dons. Oh, I've not seen that. What's that? Someone tag me in that on Twitter, please. Neth Medi says, Marcus is working with RH, the guy from the watch-alongs. Yeah. Shobit says, wouldn't I say it's better that Rashford plays in the middle with both Ahmad and Garnacho on the two wings? No. Ricky says, could you find players like Jesper Blomqvist and other bit part players for interviews, what it was like joining United? Maybe, but like the cost to go get those interviews doesn't equate to the views that you should get for getting those interviews, so people don't. Callum says, everyone thinks of transitional football as negative because people think that stems from counter-attacking from deep, but these people don't realise that Klopp is really a transitional manager. Yeah. Would I rather become vegan for a year and get to Old Trafford every match day, or give up United for a year but have all the steak and ribs imaginable? Well, option one is do what I do now but go vegan. And option two is not go to the match but eat steak. I don't know, it's just a shit question, isn't it, really? Chris says, swap Bruno with Cobby. Should help with Rashford's game, seeing as Shaw is AWOL again. A rotation. I think a 3 just better. You don't get overloaded as much. Ryan says, is Slot a better manager than Klopp? Slot a better manager than Klopp? Well, it's funny, isn't it, how, you know, Klopp was lauded as like this fucking unbelievable manager. Now, he had a great team, and he did assemble a great team, and he did some decent things with that Liverpool team. But as always, with anything Liverpool, the elevation that they get is mental. Now, people are piping off Slot for beating Ten Hag in his 3rd game. Didn't Ten Hag beat Klopp in his 3rd game? Same. Ruben says, Sir Alex's transition game was underrated. People don't realise how deadly the 08 team was in transition. Yep. Resonating silence. Does Bruno have the discipline to play in a 4-3-3? I guess we'll find out. Ryan says, need Rashid to get his confidence back. Just go back to doing what got him to the dance. I agree. Seems like he's letting it all get on top of him. Maybe needs someone to help him. Yeah, I would think that's the case, to be honest. Chris says, I agree with your assessment that playing out appears to lead to far more shots on target against yourself. That's not my assessment. It's a question. I've got to do the maths before I figure that out. I think people went towards playing out from the back because they thought it helped retain possession and get across the halfway line on a more controlled and consistent basis than just smashing it long to a big number 9. However, the video that I'm going to make is going to be, well, okay, let's say you win 50% of those headers on the halfway line. Do those, out of 10, would you say 5 times that you don't win the header and the opposition win it? Out of those 5, how often are they then getting a shot on goal? Is it 1? Is it none on average? Versus you play out from the back. Let's say you manage to get to the halfway line from playing out from the back 7 out of 10 times. Okay. On the face of things, that's more successful at getting towards the halfway line with the ball, right? But what if the 3 times that you lose the ball, you actually result in either a shot or a goal happening against you? That's what I want to drill down into, because someone at some point decided to drill down into the maths and go, actually playing out from the back is the best thing for us to do. In the same sense that a couple of years ago, Pep went, I'm not fucking taking corners into the box. We don't win them. I'm just going to reset and restart from there. Sound. Someone will do the maths and it will probably change. There'll be an evolution in football at some point this season because of it, because someone will have done the maths. All that happened before everyone started playing out was someone looked at the data and went, we can have more possession if we play out from the back rather than just fucking smashing it and going long. That's one of those. Stefan says, is this live or pre-recorded? It's pre-recorded, mate. I've seen that Gary Neville debate about teams playing out from the back. Yeah, I see that he did that a couple of days after I spoke about it. Didn't know he was a subscriber, Garrett. Nice to know. Theo says, I'll take the Brighton goalkeeper. The Dutch one reminds me of Edwin. Mushfik says, if you need someone doing grunt work for free to make that video, I'd love to get involved. We're doing it, mate. Don't worry about it. Andy says, honestly, what do I expect? Solid performance from Alad. Beyond that, who knows? Yep. Steven says, Rashford's the only player in the squad who's one of the few capable of scoring 30 in a season. Why would you boo him rather than show support for him to get back to that? Bingo. Numero Uno says, who's my favourite pundit? I like the trio of Thierry, Cara, and Mika, not going to lie. I don't think you learn anything from those. Henri, I've definitely seen Henri give some stuff that's very insightful, but I've never seen it from Carragher, really. And I don't think you get it from Mika Richards. I think Mika's learning on the job, but I think out of those 3, there's only Henri, really, that's giving you some. Genuinely, I think the best one out there's Danny Higginbottom, but now he's in America and I haven't watched him for a few years. There's not too many out there that I go, oh shit, that was really good. Not just people forget decades ago, many European countries played possession football from the back rather than just hoofing it. It was viewed as something new when it's not. Yeah, that 80s 4-4-2, bang it in the channel and play percentage football was known as the English game. Know what I mean? Mood Swing Gaming says, "Steel like rum, right? Have I tried Twin Fin? Their spiced rum is like God, in my opinion. Other flavours are good, but the blue bottle is God tier. Check them out." Yes, it's all over the show in Cornwall, isn't it? That one. I have tried that one, yeah. Twitter says Rashford has had way more good seasons than bad. The poor form coincided with so much other things going on at the club, plus having multiple managers didn't help. I agree. Who would I have replaced Gary Lineker? But here's the thing. Genuinely, someone like Mika would be good replacing Lineker, because Lineker's not there for analysis. Lineker's there to keep the show moving and to ask questions. And I think Mika would be good at that. I think he'd be good at that. I don't think Shearer has got the personality on camera. I think off camera he does, but on camera I think he's not the right fit for the lead chair role. It's not going to be fucking Ash, is it? Let's be honest. I think it's got to be someone that's had like a bit of pedigree about them. And I think they've established now it's going to be a player. The talk is it was probably going to be Jenas until he got caught being a naughty boy. So I don't think it's going to be Jenas anymore, which means it's going to be a player, which means it's going to be someone that's played for a top club, which rules Ash out. I don't know. I do not know. It's a really big role as well. Like, I think people forget just how fucking big Ian Wright. I thought Wright, he sort of retired, didn't he? So I just don't know, I really don't know. Desmond says, better style, top 10, positive goal difference, I'd keep Ten Hag. Dak says Tim Sherwood. It's not going to be Tim Sherwood. Apner says, Lineker deserves to be more insight rather than mediator. Man's played on the biggest stage. Also, that's what makes their podcast really good, because Gary does give actual insight on their podcast. The rest is football. Otherwise, yeah, he's just like, you could have anybody presenting that. King says Rio. I think Rio could, but I don't think he will. I think the commitment might be too much. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not. I think Rio could be good. Obviously, he's got the tie with BBC. Yeah, Rio might be a decent one for it, but I think they like Rio give insight too. So Martin says it'll be Sturridge. I fucking hope not. I fucking hope not. Paul says this whole Rashford thing, fact is, Rashford shouldn't even be starting right now. Okay, I'll play. Why? So Rashford created the only 2 chances that we had in the last game, right? Nobody else did. I don't think Ahmad has quite dropped Rashford, and Garnacho certainly hasn't dropped Rashford. Yes, he's got some goals to his name, but the overall play and performance of Garnacho's not quite there still yet. There's not a lot between them, but he's certainly not benched Rashford. So, like, it won't be... I'd be absolutely shocked if it's G-Nev. Witter says, Jimmy Bullard. Just can't see that. Paul says, why? Form over the last 14 months, that's why. Okay, well, last season, him and Garnacho, when he was dog shit, Rashford, have got the same amount of goals. So now what? Apner says, Garnacho's still very raw. There's a reason we're relying on Marcus to start working. I think so. Jill Scott, is she not ITV as well? Or is she BBC? Twiz says, I always criticise Rash in games he plays bad. The over-the-top carry-on that's been going on lately is just too much and so forced. Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. It's fucking draining. It really is. ZNA says, Steve, I get your major concern with who's scoring for us, but if you remember, we had the same issue last season. The goals did start coming. I'm confident Bruno, Rashford and Garnacho will bag us 10 to 12. I'm not. Sebastian says, rather give a 20-year-old time than a 28-year-old with the same ability. But I don't think they have got the same ability. I still think Rashford's ceiling's way higher. Potential unrealised is not ability. Paul says, wow, do I just refuse to accept the evidence of your own eyes? Rashford has offered nothing in recent months. Rashford literally created the only 2 chances in the last game. You've clearly got some level of agenda that you're trying to project onto others to have. I can be objective in this. I have got no dog in the fight. I don't prefer one over the other. I think they're pretty equal at the moment, but to say he shouldn't be starting, well, the guy that you want to have him start instead of him also isn't doing enough to start. Like, when he's getting the ball in certain areas, he's saying, what's he doing? The decision making's not there. He's really, really effective coming off the bench for 20, 30 minutes. I think there's a real energy that he brings to the game when he comes on in those areas, but there's still so many things he's got to learn. And I think even from a defensive positioning point of view and not running, people look at someone pressing sometimes and think it's great because they're running around like a lunatic, not understanding that they're breaking the fucking structure of the press by doing that. When they chase across from one lane to the next lane to the next lane to the next lane, it's a fucking nightmare. And it actually ruins the shape of the team. You don't need to do that. And when I look at Garnacho, I see a lot of that going on. He's not quite ready to be a star yet. I think he's got wonderful potential, but I don't think he's done enough. Tiny Pixel says, why do Newcastle fans still have a stick in their ass about us? Oh, they've had one in it for about 18 months. Paul says, but Rashford has been just poor for months. He's not the only one, by the way. Well, why are you fucking going on about him? They said you only said he can't start. You didn't mention anybody else. You just said he can't start. Then he says, it's not all about statistics. The way Rashford presents himself is something I can't get over. He's miserable, and in his PR, he's very sorry for himself. Yeah, I don't think he looks like a player in confidence or form at the moment. I absolutely agree with that. But I do see a player that on the pitch is trying. Whether or not his face looks like he's enjoying himself or not, I don't think he does. But he is trying. Dean says, if Rashford doesn't start, who is Anthony? Mill says, you know where it comes from. Remember who Rashford embarrassed for not doing their job? Stinks of those puppets. Wouldn't surprise me if there's an element of that in there, for sure. Yeah. Neil says, Nacho, Ahmad would be tops. Bring Rashi with fire from the bench. I don't know if it would. Like, we're asking so much. I think Ahmad has deserved his starts, and I think he's looked pretty good in them. But we're putting so much pressure on a young kid that hasn't played a full season of Premier League football. And we're asking him to basically carry a team ahead of an £80 million flop of a signing. Like, if you've got Garnacho and Ahmad as your 2 wing options with a young lad up front, there's so little experience in there. So little experience in there. Sam says, did I watch England the other night? Let me just stop you there. Nope. I like international football tournaments. I don't like international football. Everyday Same says, 2 need to sit down somewhere. We cook. Holded your director and you ended up spending 28 million on an average player. Gavin says, Carrick would see all of those runs Rashford makes. Our midfield does not do enough to spot the runs early. Correct. Tanvir says, Steve, any player from past United teams you could bring to make an immediate impact, who would it be? In this team, the way it plays right now, Ruud van Nistelrooy, tra-la-la-la-la, would be fucking great, wouldn't it? You know, a striker that doesn't need a partnership, that can just go and play up front on his own and just fucking bring you 40 goals would be reet good right around about now, wouldn't it? Now it says, opinions on Angel Gomez, contract ending in 2025, a return maybe. I don't think so. I'm very pleased for him getting his England call up and the way his career's going, but I would be shocked if he comes back to United. I think he would want some assurances that he's probably not going to get. And I would totally understand why he would want those assurances, but I don't think he's going to get them. Anyways, I'm a wrap it up. Cheers for tuning in as always. Some people saying Carrick, Keane, Rooney, all that. Anywho, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll be back tomorrow with some more stuff. We'll soon have games, and then so many games that we can't even fit them all in, but it's all good. Make sure to subscribe. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.